I'm Elle, and let me tell you, this past Thanksgiving was one I'll never forget. My family made up a lie to keep me from coming to dinner, but I was the only one left out. They sat around the table, laughing, celebrating, acting like I didn't exist. Why? Because I'm just an AC Teac. But here's the kicker. I was the one paying for my sister's college tuition. The same sister who was too ashamed to acknowledge me. The same family who happily took my money, but didn't want me at their table. So I made a decision. A decision that would change everything. The buzzing neon sign of my HVAC shop flickered in the twilight as I locked up for the night. The cold Seattle air bit through my jacket, but there was a warmth in my chest. Thanksgiving was only a few days away, and for once, I wouldn't have to worry about work orders or emergency repairs. I had set everything in place, scheduled jobs, prepared bonuses for my crew, and even picked out a nice bottle of wine to bring to dinner. As I climbed into my truck, my phone rang. My mother's name lit up the screen. I smiled, expecting her usual pre-holiday call about which pie I should bring, pecan or pumpkin. But when I picked up, the tone in her voice immediately sent a chill down my spine. Elle, honey. I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving, she said. Something was off. Mom always had a certain sharpness in her voice, a clipped efficiency. But now she sounded hesitant, as if she were about to say something I wouldn't like. Sure, what's up? I replied, shifting the truck into drive. There was a pause, just long enough to make my stomach tighten. We think it would be best if you skip dinner this year. I nearly swerved into the next lane. Wait, what? My grip on the wheel tightened. What do you mean, skip dinner? We always do Thanksgiving together. Mom let out a soft sigh, the kind she used when she was about to feed me a line of well-rehearsed nonsense. Well, it's just that this year we're keeping things a little more formal. Serafina's boyfriend is bringing his parents, and we thought it might be better if it was just close family. I scoffed, my chest tightening. I am close family, Mom. Of course you are, sweetheart, she said quickly, her voice dripping with forced sincerity. It's just, you know how these professional families can be. It's important for Serafina to make a good impression. And there it was. The underlying message hit me like a gut punch. My job, my life, wasn't up to their standards. So what, Mom? Because I don't wear a suit and tie, I'm not good enough to sit at the table? My voice rose, anger bubbling beneath my skin. Elle, don't make this about you. I let out a humorless laugh. Oh, I see. So it's not about me. It's just about making sure Serafina isn't embarrassed by her lowly sister, right? She didn't respond. That silence was enough. I can't believe this, I muttered. Elle, honey, it's just one dinner. We'll make it up to you. Maybe a family brunch next weekend? She offered, as if that would soften the blow. I hung up. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, my breathing shallow. One dinner after years of helping Serafina, of paying for her tuition, of making sure she never had to worry about a damn thing. And now, I wasn't good enough to be in the same room as her boyfriend's family? As I sat there in the stillness of my truck, my phone vibrated again. A text from my cousin, Genevieve. I need to tell you something. It's about Thanksgiving. I hesitated before opening the message. I overheard Mom and Serafina talking the other day. Serafina told her she didn't want you there because she was afraid it would make her look bad in front of Dorian's parents. She said, and I quote, I don't want them to think we come from a working-class background. I read the message twice, my stomach sinking. My own sister, the same one whose textbooks, tuition, and rent I had been covering for years, was ashamed of me. Ashamed of the work I did. Ashamed of the life I built with my own hands. I wanted to throw my phone against the dashboard, but I just sat there, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The way she never invited me to her college events. The way she changed the subject when her friends asked what I did for a living. The way she never introduced me to her boyfriend, even though they had been together for nearly a year. I had ignored it, convinced myself I was being paranoid. But this was undeniable. Thanksgiving Day arrived, and for the first time in my life, I spent it alone. I tried to distract myself, went for a long drive, stopped at a diner for coffee, even called a few friends. But nothing dulled the ache in my chest. That evening, against my better judgment, I checked social media. There they were, smiling family photos, the perfectly set dinner table, Serafina in a sleek dress, beaming next to Dorian, his parents looking equally polished. And I wasn't anywhere in sight. That was the moment something in me shifted. If I wasn't good enough to sit at their table, then my money wasn't good enough to pay for Serafina's tuition. So, I made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. It wasn't relief exactly, more like clarity. The kind that only comes when you finally stop making excuses for people who don't deserve them. I made my coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out my laptop. Logging into the university's payment portal had become second nature to me over the years. I knew the password to Serafina's account better than I knew my own streaming login. Due date, 2 weeks. Balance, $21,500. I stared at the number, my fingers hovering over the trackpad. I had covered every single semester since she started law school, never once hesitating. But this time, my cursor moved to Remove Payment Method. A small pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to remove this account as a payer? This action cannot be undone. I clicked yes without a second thought. The second my laptop snapped shut, my phone buzzed on the table. My mother's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. By the fourth call, I sighed and picked up, already bracing myself. Elle. Mom's voice was sharp, exasperated, like she had already been in mid-argument before I even answered. What are you doing? I took a slow sip of my coffee. Good morning to you too, Mom. Don't play games with me, she snapped. Serafina just called, hysterical, saying you cut off her tuition payment. Tell me that's not true. Oh, it's true, I said flatly. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Ella, how could you be so cruel? Cruel, I laughed, a short, humorless sound. That's an interesting choice of words, considering she's the one who got me disinvited from Thanksgiving because she was embarrassed by me. She was just trying to make a good impression on Dorian's family, Mom argued, her tone shifting into that saccharine, guilt-tripping mode she always used when she wanted something from me. You know how these things work. She's young. She doesn't think things through. She's 24, Mom. She's old enough to know exactly what she's doing. Another pause. Then the inevitable. You promised you'd support her through school, Elle. No, I corrected, my grip tightening on my mug. I promised to help my sister, not someone who treats me like I'm disposable. She didn't mean it that way. She meant it exactly that way. Mom let out a frustrated sigh. You're overreacting. Family makes sacrifices for each other. That's just what we do. I swallowed back a bitter laugh. Funny how family only applies when I'm the one giving. When it's my turn to expect a little basic respect, suddenly I'm asking for too much. She needs this, Elle. So did I. Mom fell silent. For once, she didn't have an immediate comeback. No rehearsed lines about what's best for the family or how Serafina's future depended on me. I let the silence stretch before I spoke again, voice steady. I'm done. Elle? Number. I mean it. I've spent years paying for her education, covering every expense, making sure she never had to worry about a damn thing. And the one time I needed her to just acknowledge me, she chose to erase me instead. Mom exhaled, exasperated. You're being so dramatic. I think we're done here, I said, ignoring the sharp sting in my chest. Elle, wait. I hung up. For a long moment, I just sat there, my pulse hammering against my ribs. I had done it. I had actually done it. I should have felt guilty. Maybe a part of me did, but it was so small, so buried under years of resentment, that I barely noticed it. Instead, I felt something else. Something dangerously close to satisfaction. I sat in the dim light of my living room, the hum of the city outside barely reaching through the thick glass windows. The half-empty cup of coffee on the table had long since gone cold, but I didn't move. My mind was too busy unraveling years of memories, each one a piece of a puzzle I had refused to see clearly until now. Serafina had been ashamed of me for a long time. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. The signs had always been there. I remembered last Christmas when she threw a big party for her law school friends. I had found out about it only through a stray Instagram post, her smiling face front and center, with a caption about celebrating success with the best people. I hadn't been invited. When I confronted her, she gave me some rushed excuse about how it was just a small thing and not a big deal. I let it slide. Then there was the time I visited her on campus. I had been in the area for a job and figured I'd stop by, take her out to dinner. When she saw me walking toward her dorm, her eyes darted around like she was afraid someone would see me. She barely let me inside, rushing through small talk before making up some excuse about a study group she had to get to. And the introductions. God, the introductions. Whenever I ran into her friends, she never said, "This is my sister Elle." It was always just, "Oh, this is family." Like my actual identity was something best left vague. I had told myself it wasn't intentional, that she was just distracted, busy, young. But it wasn't that. She had been embarrassed by me all along. The realization burned through me, a slow and seething kind of anger that wasn't just about her, but about me, too. For years, I had let this happen. I had let her take from me, let her diminish me, let her get away with things because I thought family meant something. But family shouldn't be conditional, and love shouldn't come with fine print. I turned to my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. It was almost muscle memory by now, logging into the university's payment portal, checking the due dates, making sure everything was squared away. But this time, the screen felt different. Next semester's tuition, $21,500. Due in 2 weeks. I stared at the number, my stomach twisting. How many late nights had I worked to make sure that money was there? How many vacations had I skipped? How many times had I put her needs before my own? And for what? So she could pretend I didn't exist when it was inconvenient? Number not this time. I grabbed my phone and dialed the university's financial office. A polite voice picked up after 2 rings. "How can I assist you today?" "I need to remove myself as the payer on an account," I said, my voice steady. There was a pause. "Are you sure? This will impact the student's enrollment status." I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. I had spent years being sure of things that didn't deserve my certainty. But this, I'm sure. The process took less than 5 minutes. A few verification questions, a final confirmation, and just like that, it was done. I set my phone down and exhaled, waiting for guilt to creep in. It didn't. Instead, all I felt was a strange, unfamiliar kind of relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying someone else's burden. But I also knew this was just the beginning. And when Serafina found out, she was going to lose her mind. The first call came less than 24 hours later. I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at the screen, already knowing who it was before I even saw her name. Serafina. I let it ring. It rang again. And again. Then a 4th time. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around the mug. I wasn't ready for this conversation. Actually, no, I just didn't owe her this conversation. The buzzing stopped and a voicemail notification popped up. Against my better judgment, I pressed play. "Elle, what the hell? I just got an email from the university saying my tuition payment was declined. This has to be a mistake. Call me back." Her voice was shrill, panicked. I set my phone down, taking another sip of coffee. Let her stew in it. Another call. then another, then a text. "Elle, if you don't fix this, I won't be able to enroll next semester. You can't just do this to me." I typed out a response. Not my problem. But before I hit send, I stopped. What was the point? She would never understand. No text from me was going to make her suddenly see the years of effort I had put into making her life easier. She only saw what she lost, not what she had been given. I deleted the message and put my phone on silent, because I already knew what was coming next. Serafina wasn't the kind of person who accepted consequences quietly. When she realized I wasn't responding, she turned to the next best thing. Dorian. She showed up at his apartment, hair a mess, eyes wide with panic. He had barely opened the door before she was pushing past him, pacing back and forth across his living room. "I can't believe this," she breathed, her hands gripping her temples. "Elle cut me off, just like that. No warning, no explanation, nothing." Dorian frowned, shutting the door behind her. "Wait, Elle? Your sister Elle?" "Yes," she snapped. "I just got the email. My tuition payment didn't go through. I tried calling her, but she won't answer me." Dorian sat down on the couch, his confusion evident. "Hold on, I thought your parents were paying for school?" Serafina froze. For the first time in years, she didn't have a rehearsed excuse ready. She never told him Elle was the one paying. "Well, I mean, they help. But Elle was covering most of it," she muttered, suddenly avoiding his gaze. Dorian's brow furrowed. "Most of it? How much are we talking?" She let out a nervous laugh. "I don't know, a few payments here and there?" "Serafina." His voice was sharp now. "How much?" She swallowed. "All of it." His expression darkened. "So, let me get this straight. Your sister has been paying for your college this entire time, and you let me believe your parents were covering it?" She waved a hand, as if brushing it off. "It's not a big deal." Dorian cut her off. "And wasn't Elle not invited to Thanksgiving? What was that about?" Serafina's face flushed. That was different." "How?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. And that's when Dorian put it all together. The sister who's been paying for your entire education wasn't good enough to sit at the dinner table with your boyfriend's family? His voice was eerily calm, but there was an edge to it, like he was done. Serafina scrambled to explain. "You don't get it, Dorian. It was just about appearances, about making a good impression. It's not like I don't appreciate what Elle's done, but she doesn't understand the world I'm trying to be a part of." Dorian let out a slow breath, shaking his head. "You mean the world where you lie about where you come from? The world where the people who actually help you aren't polished enough to acknowledge?" Her throat tightened. Wow. It was the only thing he said before he stood up and grabbed his keys. Serafina blinked. "Wait! Where are you going?" Dorian looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "I need some space." Her stomach dropped. "You're seriously mad at me over this?" Dorian didn't answer. He just walked out the door. And for the first time, Serafina realized she might have lost more than just her tuition. That night, my phone vibrated with a final text from her. "I hope you're happy. You just ruined my life." I stared at the screen, waiting for the guilt to creep in. It didn't. I just set my phone down and finished my coffee. Because if she thought I had ruined her life, she was about to learn that she had done that all on her own. The next call wasn't from Serafina. It was from my mother. I stared at the screen, her name glowing like a warning. Margot Calloway. I could already hear the tone she'd use. The carefully measured disappointment. The soft sighs that carried more weight than words. The underlying message that I had somehow failed her. I let it ring twice before answering. Elle. Mom's voice was sharp, urgent. "I just got off the phone with Serafina. She's hysterical." I leaned back against my kitchen counter, tightening my grip on my coffee mug. "Yeah? Maybe she should have thought about that before she treated me like I didn't exist." "Elle," she scolded, her voice dropping into that motherly, I'm trying to be reasonable tone. "She's your sister. You can't just abandon her like this." I exhaled through my nose, forcing myself to stay calm. I didn't abandon her. I just stopped funding her lifestyle. She's just a kid. I laughed, short and humorless. Mom, she's 24. She doesn't know how to handle this kind of setback, Mom pressed. If she has to drop out, it'll ruin her future. Ah, there it was. The real reason she was calling. Not to ask how I was doing after being thrown out of Thanksgiving. Not to apologize for the way I'd been treated. No, this was about damage control. About fixing the mess Serafina had made of her life. And I was supposed to be the one to clean it up. Again. I stayed silent, waiting for her next move. Elle, please, Mom softened, sensing my resistance. You know how hard she's worked to get where she is. I swallowed the bitter taste rising in my throat. And where was she when I was working double shifts to make sure she never had to take out loans? Elle, where was she when she let you uninvite me to Thanksgiving because she was embarrassed by me? Mom let out a long, exasperated sigh. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I nearly dropped my mug. Are you serious? Mom, she erased me. She's been erasing me for years. She's only calling now because she lost her safety net. She's family, Mom stressed. We help each other. Funny how that only worked one way. I shook my head, pushing off the counter and pacing the kitchen. No, Mom. I helped her. I covered her tuition. I made sure she had a roof over her head. I gave her a future. And she couldn't even give me a seat at the damn dinner table. She's scared, Elle. She's young. She's selfish, I corrected. And I'm done cleaning up after her. There was a long pause. Then, in a voice coated with forced patience, Mom asked, So what do you expect her to do? Just drop out? Not my problem, I said flatly. Elle, she warned. I mean it, Mom, I said, already exhausted. Find someone else to foot the bill. Like who? She shot back. Your father and I can't afford it. You know that. And there it was. The truth buried beneath all the guilt-tripping. She never expected Serafina to figure it out on her own. She expected me to cave. But this time, I wouldn't. I guess Serafina's going to have to learn how to live like the rest of us, I said, reaching for the end call button. Elle? Click. The next few hours were quiet. Too quiet. Then, one by one, the rest of them started calling. Dad was first. Elle, this is going too far. His deep voice rumbled over the phone. You're punishing your own blood. Then, Aunt Delilah. I never thought you'd be so heartless. Uncle Larry, it's just money, Elle. You make plenty. Don't be petty. Cousins, family friends, even people I barely spoke to. All chiming in with some version of Elle. How could you? It was almost impressive, really. How quickly they had rallied behind Serafina. How easily they had turned me into the villain. Not one of them had defended me when I was shut out of Thanksgiving. Not one of them had called to ask how I was feeling. But the second Serafina lost her tuition payments? Suddenly, it was a crisis. I let their messages pile up unread. Then, just before midnight, Mom called again. This time, I picked up. Let me guess, I said, voice flat. You've gathered the entire family and decided to stage an intervention. Elle, this isn't funny. No, I agreed. It's pathetic. Mom sucked in a breath. How dare you? How dare I? I let out a short, bitter laugh. Where were all of you when I was working weekends, pulling overtime, making sure Serafina had everything she needed? Silence. Where were you when she pretended I didn't exist? When she hid me from her friends? When she made it very clear that my life, my work, wasn't good enough for her? Mom cleared her throat. Elle, it's not like that. It is like that, I snapped. And let me be very clear, Mom. I'm done. Serafina is on her own. I hung up, and I meant every word. But Serafina? She wasn't done fighting. At first, it was subtle. A lingering look from a longtime client, a hesitation in the voices of family friends when they spoke to me. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining it. Then, one afternoon, as I was finishing up a routine inspection for Mrs. Carter, a woman who had been using my HVAC services for years, she gave me a pointed look. I never thought you'd abandon your own sister like that, Elle, she said, her voice carrying that same judgmental edge I had come to recognize all too well. I froze, gripping the clipboard in my hands. Excuse me? She shook her head, sighing dramatically. Family is supposed to take care of each other. I just didn't think you were the kind of person to turn your back on your own blood. There it was. I forced a tight smile. Well, Mrs. Carter, I suppose that depends on which version of the story you've heard. She pursed her lips, but didn't say anything else. And I didn't give her the satisfaction of an explanation. Instead, I climbed into my truck, pulled out my phone, and opened social media. And there it was. Serafina had been busy. Her posts were vague but pointed, carefully worded to make herself look like the victim without ever outright mentioning me. Some people love money more than family. So disappointing. I always believed in supporting your siblings. Guess not everyone feels the same. The comments were filled with sympathy. I can't believe your own family would do this to you. You deserve better, babe. Stay strong. You've always been the sweetest. People like that will regret their choices one day. I scrolled through in disbelief. My stomach clenched when I saw familiar names. Distant relatives, family friends. People who hadn't so much as sent me a text after Thanksgiving, now rallying behind her like she was some kind of helpless victim. And then, as if on cue, my phone started ringing. My aunt, then my uncle, then my mother. I silenced every call. I knew what they were going to say before they even opened their mouths. I had gone from being family to the villain in a matter of days, all because I refused to keep playing my role as the silent provider. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and started the engine. Enough. I was done letting her control the narrative. I didn't call ahead. I didn't warn her I was coming. I pulled up to Serafina's apartment, walked straight to her door, and knocked. Hard. It took a few moments, but then the door swung open. Serafina stood there, her phone still in her hand, eyes widening just slightly before she schooled her expression into something more composed. Ellie, she said smoothly. To what do I owe the pleasure? I pushed past her into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. She scoffed, closing the door behind me. Oh, come in. Why don't you? I turned to face her, my jaw tight. What the hell do you think you're doing? She blinked, feigning innocence. I have no idea what you're talking about. I laughed coldly, pulling my phone from my pocket and holding up her latest post. Oh, you don't? Because this looks a hell of a lot like you trying to paint me as some heartless monster. Her lips curled into a smirk. I'm just telling the truth. My fingers curled around my phone. The truth? The truth is I paid your tuition for years while you pretended I didn't exist. The truth is I gave you everything, and you still acted like I was beneath you. She crossed her arms. And now you're mad because people are finally seeing who you really are? I took a step closer, lowering my voice. No, Serafina, you should be mad, because this little game you're playing, it won't end the way you think it will. Her smirk faltered just slightly. Oh, please, she scoffed. You think people are going to turn on me? I've built relationships, Elle. I have connections. Meanwhile, what? Fix air conditioners? Do you really think that makes you someone? My jaw tightened, but I didn't let her words sink in. Not anymore. I simply smiled. Go ahead, Serafina. Keep lying. Keep playing your little game. Keep manipulating people into thinking you're the victim. I turned toward the door, my hand on the handle. Then, just before leaving, I looked back at her. Because when this all crashes down on you, I won't be there to save you. And she was about to learn just how alone she really was. Because her perfect little world was already starting to fall apart, I didn't have to do anything. Serafina had spent years building a life on borrowed resources, my money, my sacrifices, my silence. But now that I had cut her off, the foundation beneath her was crumbling. And the best part? She had no one to blame but herself. Dorian was the first to realize something wasn't right. It started with a simple message. Anonymous, sent to his inbox late at night. Did you know your girlfriend has been lying about who's paying her tuition? At first, he brushed it off. Internet trolls, people with nothing better to do. but something gnawed at him, an uneasy feeling he couldn't shake. He started digging. He contacted the university, pretending to be Serafina. It took him 3 tries to get through to the right department, but when he finally did, the answer was clear. Her tuition hadn't been paid. Not by her. Not by her parents. No record of payment for the upcoming semester. No scheduled transactions. Just a long history of payments from a now-removed sponsor, L. Calloway. That night, when Serafina showed up at his apartment, expecting another evening of wine and carefully curated romance, she was met with something else entirely. Dorian stood at the door, arms crossed, phone in hand. His expression was unreadable, but his voice, cold. "Why did I have to hear from someone else that Elle was paying for your education?" Serafina blinked. "What?" Dorian stepped aside, letting her walk in, but she already felt the shift in the air. The warmth between them was gone. "I called the university," he continued, shutting the door behind her. "I wanted to see if there was a way I could help with your tuition, since you were so stressed about it. But imagine my surprise when they told me you didn't even have a payment plan set up, because your sister was covering everything." Serafina's mouth opened, then closed. She swallowed hard, shaking her head. "Dorian, it's not a big deal?" His voice was sharp now. "You lied to me. You let me believe your parents were paying for school, that you had everything under control, when all along it was Elle's money keeping you afloat." She tried to reach for his hand, her expression melting into something softer, something rehearsed. "I just didn't want you to think I was some kind of charity case." Dorian pulled back. "Oh, don't give me that. You had no problem using Elle as a walking ATM. And now that she finally stopped funding your life, you're trying to ruin her reputation?" Serafina stammered. I just... Dorian let out a humorless laugh. "I can't believe I was blind to this." He shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "I don't even know who you are anymore." Her chest tightened. "Dorian." He exhaled slowly, then met her eyes. "I think you should go." She stared at him, stunned. "You're breaking up with me?" "I can't be with someone who lies this easily," he said simply. The words hit her harder than she expected. For the first time, Serafina felt something crack inside her. She turned toward the door, waiting, hoping he would stop her. He didn't. The next morning, she woke up to something even worse. She had barely slept, eyes swollen from crying, her phone clutched in her hands, waiting for a message from Dorian that never came. But there was another notification waiting for her. An email. Subject: Final warning, tuition payment past due. She sat up, heart pounding. "Dear Ms. Calloway, this is your final notice regarding your outstanding tuition balance. If payment is not received within 48 hours, you will be automatically unenrolled from your courses. Sincerely, University Finance Office." Serafina's stomach dropped. This wasn't happening. She scrambled out of bed, hands shaking as she clicked onto the student portal. The balance was still there. No pending payments. No extensions granted. Her mind raced. A loan. She could apply for a student loan. She pulled up the application form, typing in her parents' information, knowing she'd need them as co-signers. Denied. Bad credit. Too much outstanding debt. She gritted her teeth and tried again, using a different lender. Denied. Her hands clenched into fists. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. This wasn't her life. She picked up her phone, scrolling to Dorian's name. She hesitated, then pressed call. Voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. Tears burned in her eyes as she moved to the next contact. L. Her finger hovered over the dial button. But when she pressed it, the screen immediately flashed. User has blocked you. She was out of options. For the first time, Serafina truly realized, just how alone she was. So Serafina did what she always did. She lashed out. I was in the middle of a staff meeting when the front door to my office slammed open so hard it rattled the glass. The conversation around me died instantly. Every head in the room turned toward the entrance. And there she was. Serafina stood in the doorway, her hair a mess, eyes red-rimmed, breath heaving like she had sprinted here in a blind rage. The look on her face was pure fury. "You ruined my life!" she shrieked. I set my clipboard down, exhaling slowly. "Here we go?" "No," I said, keeping my voice even. "I stopped paying for it. You ruined it yourself." A hush fell over the office. Employees paused mid-task. A couple of clients in the waiting area exchanged nervous glances. But Serafina didn't care. She didn't care about the audience or the scene she was causing. She was here to make sure I suffered. "You abandoned me," she spat, stepping further inside. "You left me with nothing. How could you do this to your own sister?" I crossed my arms, leaning against my desk. "That's funny. I don't remember you calling me your sister when you were lying to your boyfriend about where your tuition money came from." Her jaw clenched. "That's different." "Is it?" I tilted my head. "Because it seems to me that you only acknowledge me when you need something." Her eyes darted around, as if searching for an ally. Someone who would see her side. Someone who would back her up. No one did. So she turned to Plan B. Lifting her chin, she let her voice rise, ensuring everyone in the room could hear. "She abandoned her own family. Nothing. She's selfish. She only cares about herself." Silence. "She's not who you all think she is." The weight of her words hung in the air, but there was no reaction, no sympathy, no outrage on her behalf. Just the quiet disapproval of people who had seen what kind of person she was in real time. And then, from the corner of the room, my senior employee Harry stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You need to leave." Serafina whirled on him. "Excuse me?" "This is a place of business," Harry continued, unfazed. "And you're disrupting it." "I'm her sister!" she shrieked. Harry barely blinked. "And this is her business. You're trespassing." Serafina let out a strangled, frustrated sound. "You don't understand. She's leaving me with nothing. She's ruining my future." Harry didn't flinch. "No, ma'am. She just stopped letting you take advantage of her." That was it. That was the moment the realization sank in. No one here was on her side. Not anymore. Security arrived within minutes, called in by one of my employees, without me even needing to say a word. They escorted her out as she screamed and cursed, her voice echoing down the street. And just like that, she was gone. Later that night, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but a part of me knew this was the last time they'd try. The last time they'd bother. I sighed and picked up. "Elle, we need to talk." Mom's voice was tight, her usual performance of gentle concern stretched thin. I didn't respond. Dad cleared his throat. "Look, honey, maybe things got out of hand, but Serafina's young, she needs help." I closed my eyes, pressing the phone closer to my ear. "Let me guess. You think I should help her?" Mom exhaled sharply. "Elle, come on. Maybe we can work something out? You're doing well after all." I laughed, low, bitter. "Ah," I said, stretching my legs out on the couch. "So now I'm part of the family again, when you need my money." "Elle, don't be like this," Dad said, his voice stiff. "We just think—" "No." Silence. "You think I'll cave? That I'll do what I've always done? That I'll sacrifice my peace for her comfort?" I shook my head, even though they couldn't see me. "But I'm done. Find another ATM." And with that, I hung up. And for the first time, I truly felt free. But freedom comes at a cost. The first few days after cutting ties with my family were eerily quiet. No calls, no texts, no guilt-tripping voicemails trying to twist my own emotions against me. Just silence. It was a strange feeling, this newfound solitude. After years of being bombarded with their demands, their manipulations, their expectations, I was free. And yet, there was still that small part of me that expected my phone to ring at any moment, for someone to swoop in with another desperate plea. But no one did. Instead, the days stretched on, peaceful and uninterrupted. And for the first time, I allowed myself to breathe. It was Genevieve who finally broke the silence. I was on my lunch break, sitting outside my office with a coffee in hand, when her name popped up on my phone. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hey," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Hey," she replied, her voice softer than usual. "I wanted to check in, see how you're holding up." I exhaled, letting my eyes drift up to the winter sky. "Honestly, better than I expected." There was a pause. Then, "I figured. But I also figured you'd want to know what's going on with them." I didn't ask who them was. I already knew. Still, I didn't respond right away. Did I want to know? Did it even matter? Genevieve took my silence as permission to continue. "Serafina moved back home," she said, her tone neutral. "She's taking a break from school. Says she's going to figure things out, but, well, you know how she is." I closed my eyes, unsurprised. "And your parents?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "They're struggling financially. But, of course, they won't admit you were right," she said with a humorless chuckle. "They're still blaming you for everything, as if it's your fault that Serafina burned every bridge she had." I nodded to myself, taking a sip of my coffee. "Sounds about right." "They'll never change, Elle," she said after a pause. "I hope you know that." "I do," I murmured. "I think I've always known. I just wasn't ready to accept it before." "Well," she sighed, "for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing." A small smile tugged at the corner of my lips. "Thanks, Jen." "Anytime," she said. "And hey, Merry Christmas. You deserve a good one this year." The day before Christmas Eve, I found myself sitting at my desk, staring at expansion plans for my business. It was growing faster than I had ever imagined. More clients, more employees, more opportunities. For so long, my success had felt like something I had to downplay, something I had to apologize for. But not anymore. I wasn't ashamed of the life I had built. I was investing in myself now, not in people who saw me as nothing more than a walking bank account. And that was the most freeing realization of all. That night, as I was winding down for bed, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen. A text from my mother. "Merry Christmas. We miss you. Let's talk?" I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the screen. A year ago, I would have jumped at the chance. I would have let guilt guide me, would have second-guessed myself, would have given in. But not this time. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, then deleted the message. I had nothing left to say. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. And it felt damn good. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with something to think about. Life has a way of teaching us hard lessons, especially when it comes to family. We're raised to believe that family is everything, that no matter what, we should always be there for them. But what happens when that loyalty is one-sided? When your sacrifices are expected but never appreciated? Walking away from a toxic family dynamic doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're finally choosing yourself. And that's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of. If there's one thing I hope you take away from my story, it's this. Your worth is not measured by what you can do for others. You are not an ATM. You are not a stepping stone. You deserve respect, even from the people who share your blood. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you ever walked away from a situation that was draining you? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you feel seen, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If you didn't like it, tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Trust me, we have plenty more to tell. Thanks for watching, and remember, choosing yourself is never the wrong choice. See you in the next one.